Hi everyone, welcome to Wigan Fan TV. This week, Warrington versus Wigan. We've got a match preview in which we're going to do things slightly different. We're going to get a Warrington perspective as well as a Wigan perspective. We've got two Warrington fans. We've got Mark, who unfortunately sat in the lobby at the moment, and we just can't get any sound from him at this moment in time. So the plan was to have two Warrington fans, two Wigan fans. Instead, we're going to outnumber the Warrington fans to start off with. So you've got myself and Matt representing Wigan at this moment in time. Hi, Matt.
Hiya.
And then in the middle of your screen with the envious background is Warrington fan Rob, who is in Manly, Australia at this moment in time. Hi, Rob.
G'day.
Yeah. I mean, it's considering Wigan played in Australia and we didn't get any videos from Australia, and when they're playing Warrington, we've got one in Sydney in Australia. Is pretty impressive. So we're going to spend the first 15 minutes or so talking to Rob, giving him some stick about Warrington, and then we're going to get rid of him and we're going to substitute him for another Wigan fan. So, Rob, obviously it's difficult for yourself watching over in Australia, I guess. You obviously get to see the televised games. What have you thought about Warrington in the first three games this year?
I think they're not too dissimilar to last year, Sean. I think they're,
Okay.
The start of last year, we lost Chrissy Sandow. We had no creativity in the halfbacks at all. I think the players wanted Tony Smith out at the start when it became quite clear that Simon Moran was not going to move Tony on. I think the players then put their tails between their legs and sort of came back, and we came home with a bit of a wet sail. But this year, it's pretty much the same. I think we're laying all our hopes on Tyrone Roberts. He's been running around on one knee so far. We saw him play against Leeds. I thought he had a good game against Leeds.
Yeah.
I thought Leeds targeted him early on. He made a lot of tackles in that game down that right edge. But I thought he led to two of our tries. I thought that the pass he floated out to Curry that led to the Goodwin try was just class. He put a lot of balls up in the air. Walker, who had a great game for Leeds, in the end did drop one of those balls, which led to the Lynham try. Now since Roberts has gone, we've gone to Huddersfield. I didn't see the Huddersfield game. I saw all the calamity of errors on the streaming of the highlights, and it's clear that we're just underperforming again. We've kind of just about won at Widnes.
The Widnes game was a strange one. I think it always is with the pitch, isn't it? But whether you read too much into that.
Yeah, whether Roberts was put to one side because of that pitch and he didn't play because of that reason. But you look at the stats in those games. You look at Lynham and Russell on the wings. They made one tackle between them. Could you imagine Martin Afire playing at Widnes at the moment, getting that lack of ball? So something's not quite right at Widnes. The media were talking Widnes up prior to that game, but I heard Gary Schofield in the week say he actually turned the game off.
It wasn't a classic to be fair. I mean, of the games that Warrington have played, and Matt, you're probably the same. You've seen, I assume, the Leeds game and the Widnes game possibly on Sky. What are you've obviously seen a lot of potentially of Tyrone Roberts in the NRL, living over in Australia. What type of player is Tyrone Roberts? Because it was difficult to get that from the Leeds game, really.
Yeah, well, he's not a guy who's going to create space for other players. He's no Andy Gregory. He's not going to draw a defence in and then shoot a beautiful pass out for someone to run onto. You look at his assists in the NRL at Newcastle and also at the Titans. They're pretty low. He scores his own tries. He creates space, probably not too dissimilar to Chrissy Sandow, but he's not an out-and-out halfback. And that's probably the worrying thing about it, because we haven't, we keep trying deck pattern there. It's just not. I think between Brown and Patton, the Wigan Walks probably got more pace. So we've got to look at that part. So hopefully Roberts is the answer. I think tomorrow night, I think you'll find that there'll be a lot of bombs go up in the air to test Tompkins. I think Tompkins, I think, to be fair, hasn't come back from the NRL with the same form that he left the Super League with. I think his nerves were shot a little bit against the big boys over here. I think Price will target that. I think you'll see a lot of balls go in the air tomorrow night, and whether Tompkins can handle them as well as Walker did, we'll have to wait and see.
Matt, let's get a Wigan perspective on Warrington so far. What have you made from the highlights or the games that you've seen of Warrington compared to last year?
Well, I was looking at the squad earlier on, and I was looking at that squad. and trying to kind of match it up with the performances that I've seen. And it's a good squad. I mean, that's an excellent squad.
Yeah.
I've got it's just hang on. Right. Don't worry, it's not real. It's this is a puppet I'm going to use as an analogy. Okay.
Sorry. Which is the puppet?
This.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, Matt. Sorry.
So what I think is going on at the moment is Steve Price, right? He's got his hand up in the wolf, right? he's got his hand in there. He's managed to insert his hand, but his fingers aren't quite in the right places yet. And so as a result of that, they're a little bit out of shape. They're a bit all over the place. But I reckon with every game, he's feeling a bit more inside with his fingers. And sooner or later, things are going to click and then we will see the real wolf. I'm not saying he's a dog wanderer, obviously.
How far are these fingers going up to make it click?
All the way.
Right.
All the way. Hopefully that won't happen tomorrow night. I mean, hopefully they'll still be a little bit out of shape. But that's where I see it. I don't think Steve Price has quite made his mark on that team. His hand's not far enough up yet.
Where's your wolf gone, Matt?
I don't know. I'm a bit worried about that. He's trained.
Rob, can you see why I bring Matt on?
Yeah, it's a bit of a surprise, a bit of a shock at 6:30 in the morning, that.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, look. Talking of fingers, I think we need to pull them out. I think all good teams have a spine. I think you look at all the good teams in the NRL. You look at that number 9, the number 7, the number 6, and the number 1. They're superb. I think St Helens have got that at the moment. You look at their 4 in those key positions. I think they're going to run away with it. I can't see anyone getting near Saints with those 4 if they stay fit. As for Warrington, you look at our 4. You've got 9. You've got Clark, who started very well. Although Price is asking him to do 80 minutes, whether he can do 80 minutes every week. We talk about our squad. I think we've got a good 13. After that, I think it's pretty depleted. I think we put all our eggs in but one basket. But 6 and 7 have not fired for the last season and the start of this season too. And Ratchford, I mean, Price talked about him as an international player that came back from the 2 disappointments against Leeds and Huddersfield and showed his true colours. I think Ratchford's had probably 3 bad games and 1 good game in his last 4 performances. He played against the pub team in Perth in the World Cup, dropped the ball twice, gave an interception ball away that led to one of the pub team's tries. So surely an international player should be playing 8 good games out of 10, not 1 good game in 4.
I've just put on Victoria's comment on the screen there that sort of contradicts or disagrees with what you're saying. Rashford's the best player this season. Does that say maybe what Warrington have been like, I guess, so far this season?
Well, I thought after these 2 abysmal performances against Leeds and Huddersfield, that Steve Price might stick his neck out and and drop him, but he hasn't. So he has dropped Matty Russell for all the yards that Matty Russell makes. He makes just as many errors to get rid of all those yards. I know nothing about this Brown. I don't really remember him at the Bulldogs, and I know that Lee were quite keen to get him back. But whether he's lost his pace, you might have some fun and games on the Wing Boys on Friday night.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the Warrington squad, and it sort of leads on to us nicely. I mean, Mitch Brown, I assume, comes in. I didn't notice that Matty Russell wasn't in the squad, to be honest with you, until you've just mentioned that. The new signing, I haven't got a clue how you say his name. Uola.
Sitalicki.
Sitalicki.
Yeah,
what can we expect from him?
I don't know too much about him. I've got a mate at work who's a big Penrith fan. He said, watch this guy. He's a terrific, robust player. He goes forward very strongly. He tackles hard, but he does have the habit of going high. One of the reasons he kind of was dropped down a reserve grade was due to the reason that there was too many penalties being given away. He's a tough player. If you play reserve grade footy in Sydney, you're playing on dust dry ovals. He played out west last year. He played in that Penrith team that went on to win the Premiership. So he's quality. I think there's a fair few players that run around in the Super League that wouldn't be able to play on those dusty ovals every week. So he's tough. I just worry about his penalty count.
Okay. Well, that's something that we'll certainly look out for, particularly knowing absolutely nothing about him, to be honest, before he comes into this game. Before obviously your dog was barking in the background. It wants to go for a walk. which you've said that you're going to do. Before we let you go and we substitute you for Mark Illingworth, who's waiting in the wings to come and add to the Wigan contingent. How do you think Friday night's going to go? How do you think the game's going to go? And let's have a score prediction from you.
Well, I think if Roberts plays, and I'm sceptical whether he will, because Patton's still in the 19.
Yeah.
If Roberts plays, I think we'll probably win by 10. I think Tompkins is the key to this. I think they will just pepper him with bombs all night. He's going to drop a couple of those. I wouldn't be surprised. Price is a little bit more tough in the way he coaches, so I think the first one that goes up and the first one Tompkins catches, watch about 3 wire players jump on top of him and belt him. I think that's going to be the key all night. If Tompkins doesn't play, if Roberts doesn't play, God help us.
Score prediction?
Roberts on the field, we win by 10. Roberts away from the field, we lose by 15.
Okay. All right, very good. Rob, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. It looks like it's going to be a glorious day in Australia, and I'm very jealous of you being over there. I think you're wrong. We're going to win, and you've got to remember that Sam Tompkins won't be playing fullback all the game, but never mind.
Is that because you're having to move him because you can't find a position for him anymore?
Possibly, or maybe we've got so much strength in depth, and add Zach Hardacre in there in a few weeks' time when he gets off his van, and we'll be even better. But Rob, thank you so much for joining us. Enjoy the game, but not too much, and have a nice day at work, I guess.
Thanks, fellas. It was good tagging along. Cheers, mate.
Yeah, thanks a lot. See you later. So let's substitute one Wire fan and replace him with a Wigan fan. So welcome aboard, Mark. You can hear us okay?
Hello. Yeah,
hi.
I'm here.
Much more comfortable being surrounded by Wigan fans. I was going to be outnumbered by 2 Warrington fans. We couldn't get the other Mark on because of he couldn't hear us, or I couldn't hear him, something like that. But anyway, feel more at home now. Yeah, so I guess you saw Matt's puppet.
I did.
Yeah, I just thanks, Matt. I saw the.
Don't get my wolf out for everybody. You know that, don't you? It's just for you.
I do know now. In one question that I failed to ask Rob was whether it was Warrington GA, but we all know the answer to that. So it's always yeah. Right, let's get back on track. Let's talk about the sort of the better subject. Let's talk about Wigan. Matt, I haven't spoken to you much tonight. So far the season, how ignoring the Souths game, I guess. How he can't even speak. I think it's the Wolves that's thrown me off track. Salford game and the whole game. How are Wigan going so far as you're concerned, Matt?
I'm happy. I'm in a happy place at the moment. In fact, the only fly in the ointment for me is the Souths game. And not because I feel disappointed or bad that Wigan had a bad game. I've heard all this stuff about, Wigan got beaten by the NRL children that Souths put on the field. I think that's really disingenuous. That game, and I've watched it about 6 times, Souths put out a fairly decent squad there. It wasn't an entirely, a team of 11-year-olds. Wigan played their youngsters, particularly, in the second half, and they did a good job. They held them out, and I was really pleased with that. So, apart from the moaning I've heard about that game, I'm really pleased. I'm happy.
Mark, yourself so far? Two Super League games and a friendly against South. How do you view it?
I love what Matt's saying about that friendly. If we'd have won, we should have beat a team full of NRL kids. But because we've lost, I saw people in the trade papers on Monday slagging us off for playing so many kids. You can't win.
I guess one of the things that is Craig Mullen came through that game really well. Romain Navarrete, and they've earned themselves a place in the 19-man squad for tomorrow night.
Navarette's the one I would talk about most from that game. I'd guess that was the longest minutes he's ever played in a Wigan game. Yeah. He came on after about 15, 16 minutes and stayed on pretty much the rest of the first half, and then played about 20-odd minutes again in the second half. Normally he does 12, 15-minute spells and looks knackered, and he didn't look tired at all. And I know it was a friendly game and it was played at a different sort of pace and that sort of thing, but he didn't look tired at all. He looked strong. he just rolled on from the dominant performances he had against, again, lower opposition in the Scholars game and in the Swinton game. But I think he deserves a crack on tomorrow night. So so I was pleased with him from that Souths game. In terms of the season overall, it's been enjoyable so far, hasn't it? I mean, we bombed a load of points against Hull, but we got ourselves into positions to score them, which is great. So it means I'm not worried about how faltering our attack was in the Souths game. That's irrelevant. And we scored 40 points, and we only did against Salford. We only did that twice last year. And we never did it away from home last year. So I'm happy with how it's going for the most part so far on the field.
I echo that. I mean, you can't ask 2 from 2, playing a friendly against South, resting so many players, and rightly so, I guess, resting them. And I think the Sydney tour is probably going to be judged after tomorrow night's game. Is if you win tomorrow night, you can sort of put a big tick next to the tour. It didn't affect anything if we end up 3 from 3 after tomorrow night. Let's have a look at the Wigan squads, Matt. The biggest changes being Frank Paul, the wrecking ball, has disappeared and stayed in Sydney. He went AWOL. Well, he didn't go AWOL, I'm just making that up. He's still in Sydney. He's left the club. Dan Sargison, I thought of being dropped, but it looks like he's carrying an injury. Whether that injury is... Yeah, whether that's a knock to his confidence is the injury I'm suggesting after his performance last week. But Dan Sargison... Bruised ego, yeah. And Joe Burgess just dropped, apparently. No injury, just doesn't make the squad.
Jet lag was... he said he had jet lag, didn't he, on Twitter on Tuesday or Wednesday or something. So maybe he's feeling a bit under the weather from that.
Possibly. So in comes Navarrete, in comes Craig Mullen, and John Bateman being the 3 changes from the whole game. Matt, how do you see Wigan lining up, particularly with Nuasala dropping out? Do you put Navarrete in, and who plays centre for you?
I think I'd put Bateman in centre just for his defensive capabilities, and he's going up against this Brill Cream Goodwin fella, isn't he? So that I think we need someone fairly solid there, to be honest.
Yeah.
Other than that, Navarrete, straight swap for Frank Paul. And the wings, it's got to be Marshall, hasn't it, really?
Yeah, I mean, I think Mullen's in there probably for just a reward, gets to travel with the first team because of his performance, I guess, and rightly so, I think, on that front. Mark, how do you put Bateman at centre? How do you see the lineup going?
Yeah, I mean, Mullen played 50-odd minutes there, didn't he, against Souths, but is traditionally more known as a fullback, isn't he? He's played 6, he's played wing, he's played centre in the 19s, but he is a utility back. It'd be a big ask to throw him into his first real top-grade game away from home with jet lag against the Bryson Goodwin, Ben Curry edge. I mean, that's probably arguably Warrington's 2 best players this season so far.
Yeah.
And you're putting him up against them. I think that's too big an ask, especially when you're changing the player inside of him constantly throughout the game with, the Powell then to Tompkins. That'll happen. Yeah. So Bateman's got to play there for the defensive strength of things, I do feel. Plus, he looked really fresh, Bateman. He looked totally ready to go in the half an hour he played last week. And then the question mark is probably Navarrete or Isa on the bench. So I'd have no problem with Navarrete playing off the bench. It's just which one of those big units has kind of recovered the best from the trip. Because out of the 5, that you're going to, or 6 that you're going to pick from to be in the squad, as long as Lockers is there, the rest of them kind of equal each other out with the way Navarrete's gone.
Yeah, I guess Willie Ice is probably the Mr. Consistent, or Mr. sort of consistently in the team at least, and I guess dropping him at any point.
6.5 out of 10 every game.
Yeah, he's but he's obviously another option for centre as well. If Bateman's not fancied at centre, you've got the other issue to throw in there is who rotates with Sean O'Loughlin, and having Willie Ice on the bench probably gives you that option. Or you play three props at a time. So I guess that's the thinking behind that. Craig Mullen, like you said, played 50, 60 minutes at centre. We did have a centre a few years ago who made his debut at Warrington and didn't go too bad, Mr. Oliver Gildart, and he sort of never looked back. So you never know. But I do think Craig Mullen being in the squad is reward for his performance against Souths, and it might be a case of he's in the squad and probably doesn't play on Friday night.
And if someone goes down in the warm-up, he can cover across that back line, whereas if Burgess isn't up to scratch in terms of his fitness or his sleep pattern or whatever, Mullen can cover every one of those positions if someone goes down. So that's a positive to have him on the pitch warming up.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, going back to the jet lag issue, this is always. I spoke to Phil Wilkinson on here the other night, and I think Phil put it really well. He said this is basically like the Widnes game after the Cronulla game last year. It doesn't really matter about the performance. It's a case of getting the win at any cost. And do you echo that, Matt? Is it just a case of let's win the game, let's move on, and let's start talking about structures and attacking flair again next week?
I think so, yeah. I think it could end up getting a bit desperate, couldn't it? It could be a real battle. So, yeah, this is where we say, look, we've come off the back of a big trip. We're not necessarily expecting to see lots of exciting flair. Let's just beat the Wire. Let's beat them.
Yeah. Mark, same for you. Are you looking for a performance? Or are you just looking for victory? Or are you looking for everything?
Well, we're never satisfied as Wigan fans, are we? But
Nope.
I just want a win in this game. I think there's a few things that's going to be different from the teams we've faced up against so far. Warrington seem to be moving almost more towards the style of play that we had with like Maguire and that NRL kind of ball control. Then
Defense
use your backs to do almost all the exit set work so that your middles are fresh for tackling and defending. And they sort of, the one thing that they've not done as well as we've done so far, the main thing is make chances in the top end of the pitch, where the down near the bottom of the table in terms of chances created compared to Wigan who are up near the top, and they've given away a lot of penalties. It was interesting, Rob saying that this big lad Akolo, what's his name? Akawola? Someone's Akolo. I need to read it. If I can't.
Akayuola. I'm reading it as Akayuola. Number 16.
Yeah, it's interesting saying he's been a bit of a penalty machine in the past, because Warrington are second in penalties per game so far, and Wigan are down near the bottom of penalties per game. And we've got Ben Thaler, haven't we, on the whistle? He's given away more penalties per game than any referee in Super League so far in the early goings this season. So we might see a lot of whistle, and we've tired Wigan players in the second half. We might be inclined to give away a few penalties like what we haven't been doing so far this year. So that's going to test our stamina. But if Warrington still can't make chances, then we'll get away with it and we'll win.
It's interesting you said about the tiredness. As you two know, I spoke to Chris Radlinski during the week, and one of my questions to Chris Radlinski was, how's the jet lag? And his response was, jet lag is for the mentally weak. And he basically said that is the attitude that he has to sort of give away this week. And I guess Sean Wayne's exactly the same, because if they've got an excuse, the players have got an excuse. So it's basically okay, so it's for the mentally weak, and we'll get through this week, and we'll probably talk about jet lag next week. But notably,
if we lose, we'll talk about jet lag.
Yeah. Mostly the thing that he did order was a black coffee, though. I didn't want to say anything after he ordered the black coffee, but he was drinking black coffee after saying jet lag wasn't an issue. So who knows exactly what's going on there and whether jet lag will affect it. It's got to do at some point. But, I think what Sean Wayne said today in the press conference is it's only a plane journey, I think there's a lot more depth to it than that in terms of sports science, but that's the Wigan point of view.
The only player who played the full game last week was Joe Burgess, though, wasn't it? So obviously, the players who didn't play 30 minutes might not have as much jet lag.
Yeah, maybe there must be some logic.
It's not about the plane; it's about the minutes on the pitch, not the minutes on the plane.
I've just realised, Matt, obviously we put this into a podcast, and about 5 minutes into listening to the podcast, people aren't going to know what on earth has gone on with that wolf.
Oh, I've been doing a podcast for 4 years, and the amount of times we've done stuff that just doesn't work for podcasts.
Yeah,
but you kind of forget when you're just in conversation having a good time.
Yeah, audio descriptions of Matt's just put his hand up a wolf. I don't know how I possibly do that. Matt,
only to the wrist.
Matt, let's get your thoughts on how do you see Friday night going? Are Wigan going to win? And I guess you've got a poem. If this is the time to go through the poem, fire away.
I think we're going to win. I think they're going to win probably not by much, maybe 6-7 points. And I do think it is going to be a real battle because, bear in mind, Warrington have been waiting for this one. They've known for months that we're going to be coming to them on the back of this trip. So they're going to be up for it. They're going to smell the chance here. I reckon it's going to end up... Have you ever seen that film, The Grey, where all them wolves are trying to eat Liam Neeson to death?
Yes.
And he ends up going to the wolf's house, fashioning like knuckle dusters out of snow and bits of twigs and stuff. And it ends
Who's
up
playing
in a big
Liam
wolf
Neeson in your
fight.
mind?
That's Wigan. Wigan are Liam Neeson.
Okay. So it's not Sean Wayne.
Wigan Neeson. Well, do you know what? They're very similar, aren't they?
Yeah.
And I reckon it's going to be a real slogging battle like that. And I think Wigan are just going to come through it.
Okay. Score prediction, Matt?
I reckon Warrington 18, Wigan 25.
25. So we're going for a drop goal again.
I think so.
You like the drop goals, I think.
Who doesn't?
We like drop goals at Warrington. Go back to the Challenge Cup last year. Mr. Tompkins enjoyed playing at Warrington last year against Salford and Warrington in the Challenge Cup with his drop goals. So you never know. Mark, how do you think Friday night's going to go? Wigan going to win and score prediction?
Well, we've got a good record, haven't we? Recent times, we've won 4 of the last 5 against Warrington at Warrington, and won a cup semi there. So our boys know the pitch and enjoy playing there. So that might help. Liam Marshall has got a great record there. Oliver Gildart's got a great record there, and that's our golden edge of try scoring. So I think we'll be able to outscore them just because they're still figuring it out in the halves. So I'm going to go 24-20 in favour of Wigan. I think we'll just edge it there with that. Possibly more, maybe for a bit more luck than a class that we've had in the first 2 wins. A bit more luck, but we're going to win.
I've just put Stuart's put on Marshall hat-trick tomorrow, which did he score 4 there last year, Mark? Mr. Statman.
He scored 4. Yeah, he scored 4 in the first game there last year.
He scored again.
I don't know if we'll get away with some of them.
Yeah,
he did score against them at Magic, and I'm pretty sure he scored 2 in the league game there as well. Let me just double check that because I'll be able to get that up. The second league game, sorry, not the league game there, the cup game. Did he play in that one?
He did, yeah, because he scored that strange try. Where everybody stopped. Atkins
scored 1 in that game.
Yeah,
I apologise.
I can remember it being a strange try, and everybody sort of stopped, and Marshall carried on. I can't remember.
Of course, he was on the right wing, wasn't he, in that game? Yeah.
Yeah. So Stuart predicts Wire 10, Wigan 32. I've gone for Warrington 10, Wigan 18. Oliver Gildart, first try scorer. This left edge against the right edge, I think, is going to be key for Wigan. I think Warrington's weakness is in that right hand side, and I think, like Rob said, who was just on before, they've dropped Matty Russell now because of that. I think it was that they were lining up with Hughes, Atkins, and Russell on that side, and sort of licking your lips against that defensively.
You can really take advantage when Ben Murdoch-Masila gets in there as well, because for all the money they spent on him, his conditioning doesn't look right so far this year.
No, I mean, he's a big lad, isn't he? He's a very big lad.
Price needs to get his fingers in there. That's what it is. Price needs to get his fingers in.
Here we go again.
Metaphorically speaking.
Yeah, so if Ofcom ever watch this, we're sorry. And if the RSPCA watch this, no animals were hurt in this video. Daniel says, I think tomorrow the pressure's on Warrington as many expect them to win this one. A loss for them would put their new coach under some early pressure. Yeah, spot on. I think this is, I put in the preview, it's probably not a must-win game for them, but it's probably, they can't afford to lose this, Matt, I don't think, can they?
It's going to make life very difficult because it's going to bring back all those memories of last season for them, and that's going to make the pressure really mount. They'll be desperate. They'll be desperate.
Yeah, we might play in Wigan's favour. That Mark,
we've put the pressure on them, like in the sort of mind games before as well, haven't we? Kind of not saying that we're going to lose, because we would never say that, but playing down like the situation and saying that they'll be up for this, and all the things that you've been sort of saying is kind of echoes what the sound bites have been, and what Tompkins has said in his he did something earlier in the week, didn't he, where he said something along those lines. So yeah,
it takes the
I think
pressure
they
off
will
Wigan,
feel
I
a
think,
bit.
doesn't it?
Do you think, and this is a bit of a conspiracy theory, that the whole trip to Australia was just to throw Warrington off a bit?
It's an expensive trip to just try and get 2 points.
But
the regular season means nothing apparently. So we're going to do it again in August before the Super 8 fixture, I think.
We just fly to Sydney just to put them off.
Did you? I missed the start. Did you have a chat about Frank going? And
no, that's I've got that on the little agenda here. Let's before we finish off and go to saying bye to the puppet wolf and getting Matt's poem. Mark, your thoughts on, first of all, the wrecking ball and Zach Hardaker.
Well, I call him the dropping ball now.
The dropping ball. Mark, you go first. Mark, you go first, and then Matt will get your thoughts.
Look, I don't think it's going to be a huge loss. As long as we don't have injury crisis, we're covered in that position. Hamlin scored a length of the field romper in the reserves game last night, so
yeah, apparently so.
That's good for him, because he didn't look that impressive in the Souths game, I thought. But
I think he missed a chance last week, didn't he, Hamlin?
Yeah, he did, and Navarrete took that chance. But there's plenty of big players standing up. Kabula's getting a chance on loan at Swinton, so he can get himself fit as well. So we've got competition for places. I've not got a problem with that. Hardaker, it's a strange situation. Look, it's going to be a fantastic right centre to plug in if we have him. And if his ban is for any reason reduced. Now, Phil gave some really good insight into how that all works, didn't he, on Tuesday,
he
and
did.
how it was an in-competition test sort of thing. I
was quite concerned about Phil's knowledge of cocaine, to be honest with you, but yeah, he seems to know a lot about how cocaine gets out of the system.
As a professional rugby league journalist, you need to know about these things.
So Hardaker, Mark.
I think the one thing I don't know about it is what might go on in terms of when he has his hearing, because obviously Hardaker's had a lot of emotional problems or kind of problems controlling his aggression, behaviour, and other off-field problems. And I don't know didn't Ryan Bailey kind of get away a little bit with the problems he had last year through some sort of raising things at a hearing about his position he was in mentally and stuff like that. So that might play to reducing the ban from the normal standard 2 years that you would ordinarily expect him to get. So I don't expect the club to formally announce anything until that hearing is out of the way, because it might affect how we structure the deal. But I do believe that one of the things with Cass is they weren't necessarily wanting to pay him when he was banned, or pay him what maybe he might have felt he should get paid whilst he was banned. Yeah. Whereas Wigan maybe are willing to do that to safeguard having such a quality player on the field, off the field problems, but on the field quality player. So I've got no problem with giving people a chance. Hardaker maybe is right in last chance saloon, but we'll see how that pans out. But if he's on the field and doesn't do out stupid off the field, he's a quality player.
Absolutely. Matt, your thoughts first of all, Frank Paul and then Zach Hardaker?
And I was reading the comments written by Liam Farrell earlier today about the sort of bloke that Frank Paul was. And that kind of made me reassess him a bit. Having seen that, I thought, he sounds like a really nice guy. And I think a club kind of needs people like that somewhere in the squad. So from that point of view, I am quite sorry to see him go. However, from a playing point of view, I don't think the loss is going to be that great at all.
Matt, can I ask you on that point then? Do you think he'll have had the same positive influence this year with his family not being around anymore? Maybe that might have been affecting him personally.
Yeah,
that's just a thought.
I think keeping anybody the other side of the world away from their family, even though you've got Skype and things like that, I think that's going to have a negative effect on anybody, to be honest. And I don't know long term how that would have panned out for him, but I can fully understand why he'd want to be with his family and why he'd want to leave Wigan.
and I've got a conspiracy for you, Matt. You'll like this.
Oh, go on.
I think your conspiracy theories tonight. His family stayed over in Australia after the close season. I think we all know that. His wife was living in Newcastle, and there was this rumor. I think basically what they thought is, we're going to go out to Sydney. Why don't we just buy one plane ticket and save on the second one? Because we're going to pay him for me to go over to Sydney later anyway, and I just won't come back. I think all of this, he knew exactly what he was doing. He just didn't want to pay for a flight. I could have given him my flight if he wanted.
Bloody hell! Do you know? Yeah. That is what it is.
It is. I think that's what it is.
I think we've released him to throw Warrington off.
Matt, your thoughts on Zach Hardaker? Would you like to see him in the cherry and white?
Yes, I would. I've got reservations about his behaviour. I'm more concerned about the kind of the homophobia and the anger issues he's had in the past, to be honest, and the cocaine. Not that I'm in any way saying it's okay to take cocaine. That troubles me a bit. But having said that, I do believe that everyone should get a second chance. And I think Wigan are a responsible enough club to take on somebody like Zach Hardaker, and actually maybe help him a bit too. So I've no issue with it. The whole thing of waiting 2 years for a ban, if that's what the ban will be, before he plays, that seems a bit wild. But he's that good, so yeah, give it a go.
I mean, there's all this sort of precedent, like Mark said, about Ryan Bailey. I think that was potentially might have alerted Wigan to, hang on a second, we might be able to get him, a reduced ban or maybe support him a little bit. You wouldn't be surprised maybe to see Wigan supporting him in the background, either with sort of the counselling and perhaps mental issues that he needs, but also the training side. Obviously, officially they can't do that. But you can sort of see Wigan as a club that has such a strong community base. The opportunity to sign a quality player like this doesn't come along very often. The fact that I think Sean Wayne would view it as, I'm getting one over Darryl Powell because they've paid 150 grand for him and they've got 6 months out of him. I'm going to get him on a free because you've sacked him, and I'm going to support him, and I'm going to make sure that he becomes a Wigan player for the next 5-6 years. I think there's a lot in there for that sort of, it just all adds up. The Ben Barber case, 12 match ban, but it was out of competition when he took it. So there's lots of things that
different anti-doping organisation as well.
I think there's,
so I don't know what all.
Yeah, I mean, we are guessing. I think there's a lot of things.
Get Phil on, clear it up.
Yeah. There's a lot of things that I think have happened within anti-doping since Gareth Hawke. I think that's what I'm trying to say. Is it's not just a clear-cut 2-year ban anymore. I think a lot.
There was
of it
Jake Livermore as well, wasn't there, in football?
Yeah. So there's a lot of new circumstances around it, and I think it's good. As much as I don't like Zach Hardaker when he's wearing a Leeds shirt or a Castleford shirt, I'll be sort of celebrating and cheering if he does sign for Wigan. And I think that's a case of being a fickle Wigan fan. But never mind. I want to see
I've got Cass fans I know who've followed the club for 20, 30 years telling me that he's the best player they've ever seen in a Cass shirt. So that's how highly they think of him on the field. But he's dead to them now, though, as well.
Yeah. It's going to be, if we do sign him, I am looking forward to watching Castleford fans have a little bit of a meltdown. That will be nice to see. Guys, thank you so much again for joining me tonight. We're going to finish again with Matt's poem. I hope the wolf has a place in the poem. If not, then I think you've got to improve it. But I'm frightened to know what puppet you're going to pull out for witness.
It's going to stink.
And last night, Gary Ormison, I think his name is, on Twitter, asked me to get in touch with Martin Afire to see if Martin Afire would come on and do something before the Widnes game. So I tried today, and he is coming on. He's going to do it on Monday afternoon, so I'll be live on Monday afternoon, but obviously we'll upload it later on, and it'll be on YouTube and things later on. I think I've got probably about 20 minutes of Martin Afire's time, so if there's anybody that's watching it and you've got any burning questions that you want to ask him, please feel free to send them through, and I'll put them to him. I've got strictly 20 minutes of his time on Monday afternoon, so we'll put them to him. Mark, is there any? I haven't spoken to you about this, so I might be putting you on the spot a little bit. But I saw there's a little bit of action on Twitter about Super League pods. What's your sort of aim now with moving forward?
Yeah, and Gary, who you mentioned, is one of our followers. I've known Gary through Twitter for a number of years. He's always keen for a comment, and we are going to be back basically after me taking a month off to figure out the show after my former co-host departed the scene on the eve of the season. We're going to be back from Monday, so we'll be recording a new show on Monday night. That'll be up late Monday night, early Tuesday. And so if anyone's watching any of the games over the weekend, look out on our Twitter feed for links to give us your views on the games that we can read out and share and discuss during the show. And hopefully some new Wigan fan listeners will get on board. And I'm looking forward to getting going again.
Excellent. And we'll keep an eye on that, and we'll obviously retweet it and put it on the Facebook page to do the match reviews, and we look forward to listening to that. So, Mark, thank you again very much for taking the time out of your Thursday evening. No rugby to watch tonight, so it makes it a bit better than sort of trying to watch it above the screen. And Matt, it's over to you.
Right, the poem then. The Wolves will hope Wigan tire, so throughout the game they will fire. All that they've got at a team that are shot, but I still think we'll get over the wire.
Brilliant. It's anybody that's listening on the podcast. What a show you've had. You've had a wolf that you can't see, and we've finished off with another poem. So, thanks everybody for watching again. So I'll be back on Monday with Martin Afire. So I look forward to that, and see you, Matt and Mark. Thank you very much.
Cheers.
See you later.